Will the Minnesota Vikings find the playoffs again? In a lackluster NFC, anyone can take the crown. And with the good offense, the Vikings may have it for the second straight season. Yet, the defense will hold them back from that achievement. I'm Chase Keller, and tune into this dive on the Minnesota Vikings, why I believe they will finish 8-9, and why they came up in 17th in my 2023 NFL Power Rankings. The Vikings offense has been the team's strong suit the last 3 seasons, with 3 top 14 finishes in points and 3 top 12 finishes in yards. Led by elite game manager Kirk Cousins, the offense is poised for another solid year as they rank 12th in my ratings. So let's dive into this offense and understand why it's so consistent. I think the epitome of consistency on this offense is Kirk Cousins. Cousins may have taken a step back in 2022, but beforehand, Cousins was consistently making great and smart plays to help the offense be great. Besides, Cousins went through his first Minnesota Vikings coaching change last season. He went from defensive-minded Mike Zimmer to offensive-minded Kevin O'Connell, who actually runs a quarterback-friendly scheme. Where I think the switch suffered was with the personnel switches. Clint Kubiak, the former Vikings offensive coordinator, ran a lot of 2 wide receiver sets, which is where Cousins succeeded most. Under O'Connell, 11 personnel is primarily used, and as a result, Cousins turned the ball over more than usual. So here's where I say that I believe Kirk Cousins will return to the form that he had with Mike Zimmer. He may be turning 35 soon, but he's running forward with a better receiving core. So reliability is going to be key with Cousins under center. The running back room drastically changed after the departure of Dalvin Cook. Under him, it was ranked over the midline, receiving an above average grade. Now, with Cook gone and Madison taking over, it gets a terrible grade. Madison isn't terrible, don't get that idea. Get the idea that losing Dalvin Cook, one of the NFL's best, is going to hurt. Alexander Madison is 5'11", 215 pounds, so it should be no surprise he's best running down the middle of the O-line. Under a zone run scheme, I'm expecting a lot of inside zone runs for Madison. My concern with Madison is the efficiency. The last 2 seasons, he has failed to record over 4 yards a carry, and he's kind of been seen as a power back. So in my opinion, a team with the power back as primary needs an elusive back complement. And that's what the Vikings don't really have. Ty Chandler and Kene Wangu are both very elusive, but we're looking for quality here. Chandler isn't a great scheme fit in Minnesota as he needs to see a split in run schemes, and Wangu has never received volume and functions best as a return specialist. With that being said, this team is really going to feel the loss of Dalvin Cook this season. The wide receivers is where it gets fun. They're ranked in the great category because of 1 receiver, but the rest of the room has the opportunity to bloom in 2023. I gave out 2 97 overall ratings this season. Patrick Mahomes and Micah Parsons. I was extremely tempted to make Justin Jefferson the 3rd, but he sticks back. Even then, he's still absolutely elite. Jefferson can do anything, from route running to contested catches to even running and throwing the football. He piled together 1,809 receiving yards last season, which is the 6th most receiving yards in a single season in NFL history. Jefferson is just a machine overall. He has the upside to finish a season with 2,000 receiving yards, and while he may have 25 touchdowns in his first 3 seasons, a number some call underwhelming, I believe Jay Jettis is the best receiver in the NFL. So now let's discuss the bloomers. Going against rookie bias, KJ Osborne takes the wide receiver 2 spot, and he actually receives breakout grade number 1 on this roster. Osborne has shown flashes the last 2 seasons, and he actually took a big step forward with Kevin O'Connell at head coach. I point out that he had 0 drops and 88 targets last year, so now I'm excited to see what he can do with increased volume and a molded Kirk Cousins. Jordan Addison is wide receiver 3 here, and he's got the route running and separation abilities for the NFL. He just also has many other concerns for NFL translatability. For starters, his deep speed is not great, and the jump to the NFL will not be fun if you don't have that deep athleticism. He also had a few concentration drops while with Pitt, And while he improved on that with USC, I want to see that also in the NFL. This does not mean he's bad at all, he just has translatability concerns. I still really liked him as a prospect. Jalen Reagor is here too, and while he may have been a bust given that he was drafted higher than Justin Jefferson, he's still got potential. And then there's the tight ends, a room that drastically improved in the middle of last season. That improvement was obviously TJ Hawkinson, who was traded to them by Detroit. Before the trade, Irv Smith led the pack, followed by Johnny Munt and Ben Elefson. Smith is a Bengal. Elefson retired after 3 seasons and is now a Vikings coach, and Munt is still a Viking. Back to Hawkinson though, he is a very good receiving tight end who worked really well with Minnesota last season. He's not a great blocker, but Minnesota has that deeper in the room. Josh Oliver is tight end too, strictly based on how ratings work, as I was high on him as a prospect and he's just slowly fallen down. I expected him to be a great receiving tight end, but he's actually been a solid blocker and a mediocre receiver. And Johnny Munt is strictly a blocking tight end. He caught career highs in 2022 with 20 receptions for 152 yards and a touchdown. That should say enough. The offensive line is actually very good, receiving a great grade and falling just short of elite. I was actually kind of shocked by this group when I went through this roster, and I haven't really heard enough about this line in the media. Having a still developing yet already elite left tackle in Christian Darrisaw definitely helps all of this. He's a top tier run blocker with great pass blocking tendencies, and he's quite possibly the biggest X factor to this offense. He can develop Alexander Mattison, KJ Osborne, and Jordan Addison just by keeping his play up. Be on the lookout for Christian Darrisaw and top 5 tackle list next season. On the right side, they have another phenomenal tackle in Brian O'Neill. He's developed every year that he's been in the league, and never allowing over 31 pressures in a season is crazy good for an offensive tackle. It does take a step back when it comes to the inside, but the talents altogether are still fairly good. Ezra Cleveland is an underrated talent at left guard, given that he's a Pro Bowl level run blocker. His pass blocking could use heavy work, and it's starting to look like Cousins is going to see more pressure from the inside compared to the outside. On the positive side, I am 3 for 3 in discussing great run blockers. So while Alexander Mattison may not be good now, he's got the development around him. The next two are a little off, starting with Garrett Bradbury, who I actually loved in the 2019 NFL Draft. It's rare to see first-round worthy centers, but he hasn't particularly played like a first-round pick. He's been very inefficient as a pass blocker, surrendering 29 pressures in 3 of his first 4 seasons. As a run blocker, he's fine, but the pass blocking just isn't good. And then Ed Ingram is one of the worst pass blockers in the NFL. He let 63 pressures and 11 sacks up in 2022, some of the worst numbers in the NFL and the worst for an interior guy. Yet, he's still very young, so I have no reason to drop his rating. And it's hard to say that O'Connell won't develop this offense. That's because he will. As I mentioned earlier, O'Connell is a big 11 personnel offensive coach with many pre-snap movements in his bag. If you know what McVay's offense looks like, Minnesota's is very similar. Besides, O'Connell is a part of the McVay coaching tree, and that's actually a big positive. The Rams' offenses have always found ways to work, and I'm expecting the Vikings to be very similar to that. With how this roster is panning out, I'm actually expecting Minnesota to be more aggressive this season. To summarize, this Vikings offense is definitely above average, and compared to the NFC, it's 4th place. If Cousins can mold into O'Connell's scheme and Madison can develop behind this offensive line, this offense is in great shape. So now, time for the defense. Here comes what's holding back Minnesota from a guaranteed playoff spot. The defense. It's what held back their potential last season, and it eventually turned into a negative point differential and a wild card loss to the New York Giants. Even Vikings fans have to admit that their defense was not good last season, and it's destined to get worse. Eric Kendricks, Za'Darius Smith, Dalvin Tomlinson, Patrick Peterson, even Cam Dantzler, All of them were key losses for this Vikings defense. And now, it's sitting on aging veterans and minimal upside. The edge rushers are actually extremely good, and that's it for this defense. The rest of the defense is either rated bad or terrible, so be prepared. This group, though, is filled with fantastic pass rushers and retains the talent of Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith, even if they don't have Zadarius Smith. Hunter kicks it off, being one of the most underrated players in the NFL. It's upsetting seeing that he's being shopped because this man is always disruptive for Minnesota. He tallied 76 pressures in 2022, which was 9th in the NFL. In 2019, he tallied 97 pressures, which was 3rd. In between those 2 seasons, he dealt with injuries, and clearly, they did not make him lose a step. He's entering his 8th season with Minnesota, given that he stays. He has some controversy surrounding his contract, but hopefully, like the couple of seasons, that does not get in the way of productivity. The Vikings signed Marcus Davenport this offseason for security. With Hunter in a contract controversy and Smith formerly in one, Davenport is ready for it all. He's doing a great job in his career so far, and he's actually starting to find his groove in the pass rush. He doesn't have a great sample size, given that he was rotated more than he should have been while with New Orleans. But in this situation, plus the better scheme fit, he earns breakout grade number 2 on this roster. They also got the best undrafted free agent pickup in Andre Carter out of Army. I had him at an early 3rd round grade, and he somehow didn't get his name called. Vikings fans, expect a raw prospect early on, but expect someone who may develop into an athletic and smart pass rusher. Here's where it gets boring, since the rest of the groups are mediocre, so hang in please. The interior defensive line avoids the terrible grade for now, but it's a bit close that it may come at any time. Harrison Phillips had a good start to his career with Minnesota. He's never been a great pass rusher, but his run defense is always reliable. He's a physically dominant run defender who makes most of his plays at or beyond the line of scrimmage. This is pretty much where I see Dallas' recent 1st round pick Mozzie Smith going, kind of like that Harrison Phillips type player in terms of skill set and talent. Dean Lowry moved on from Green Bay after 7 seasons with them just to join their division rival. Lowry is a veteran talent with good experience as a nose tackle, but he's never been that elevating talent. In simpler words, he'll be an okay starter, but that's about it. And this team drafted Jaquelin Roy in the 5th round, a selection that I thought was very nice. He's also a nose tackle type player in this 3-4 defense, being a great 2-gapper and about nothing else. He's athletic, and the upside is there. The worst positional group on this defense is the linebacker core, receiving the 1st terrible grade on this defense and the 2nd on this roster. They lost Eric Kendricks to the Chargers, but even with him, this group isn't anything better than under average. Jordan Hicks is now linebacker 1 on this defense, and he started his decline after joining Minnesota last season. He played the least amount of snaps that he has since 2018 while he was with Philadelphia, and per usual, he let up way too many opportunities in coverage. What he is improving on, though, is his tackling ability and his ability to stop the run. After him, Brian Asamoah is going to be slotted into a starting role. He was a 3rd round rookie last season, and I even had a mid 4th round grade on him. He was great when he played, but he only played 121 snaps, meaning you're slotting a guy with 1 season and under 130 snaps on his belt into a starting role. That's always risky. They killed another UDFA pickup though with Ivan Pace Jr., a late 4th round talent. Pace can both cover and rush the passer, and I'm completely unsure how he went undrafted since he's not even that raw. And the 3rd terrible positional group on this roster is the cornerback room. Not even signing Byron Murphy was enough, as there just isn't enough talent in this room to efficiently cover receivers. Murphy is fairly solid though, as he could give reason for a 3-3-5 defense to be ran by new defensive coordinator Brian Flores. Murphy plays his best ball in the slot, and given that he's 5'11", 190 pounds, he should be there. So don't be caught off guard if he makes the switch to safety or just plays a hybrid defensive back role. After him, it's just chaos. Andrew Booth is a guy I had as a high third-round grade in the 2022 NFL Draft, and he barely played last season. He's relying on his length and athleticism to translate to man coverage success in the NFL. Jawan Williams hasn't played since 2021, and he wasn't great already. I'm surprised that my rating system kept him this high. They still have Harrison Smith, but Cameron Bynum and Lewis Cine aren't going to help. Smith, though, is 34 years old and still effective. Sure, he's falling off a little bit, but he will still easily be the best secondary player as he enters his 12th season. I like Smith, but I can't avoid that he's starting to age now. His run support is falling off, and his coverage is starting to lose its grip. But as I said, he's still easily the best secondary player here. As for the next two, Bynum has more experience, yet he's proven he isn't worth a starting job, and Cine hasn't played a single snap, but he has more upside. It's all going to work around Harrison Smith this season, and possibly next season if nobody can step up. So with the lack of talent on this defense, I'm glad to hear that they have a good defensive coordinator. Brian Flores was a fantastic signing for this team, as he receives an A grade as a defensive coordinator. He's going to make sure that defenses can't be read easily, and his 3-4 lineup can interchange into a 3-3-5 or even a 3-5-3 alignment before the snap. It's going to be intriguing to see this defense with him at DC. Will they succeed? We will see. To summarize, this defensive talent is extremely mediocre without the edge rushers. To make it even worse, this defense lost a lot of talent this offseason, but the hiring of Flores should help balance that out a little bit. So, let's get into the rating splits. So before I end the video, I'm going to go over the splits for offense, defense, special teams, and coaching. If you are interested, the rating system is in the description below if you are confused by any of this. Starting with offense, they received a 76.99, which is 12th in the NFL, 4th in the NFC, and 1st in the NFC North. The defense came out at a 72.14, which is 26th in the NFL, 12th in the NFC, and 2nd in the NFC North. The special teams came out at a 72.35, which is 13th in the NFL, 6th in the NFC, and 2nd in the NFC North. And coaching came out at a 78 out of 80, which is tied for 11th in the NFL, tied for 6th in the NFC, and 2nd in the NFC North. As an overall team, they came out at a 75.63, which is 2nd in the NFC North, 7th in the NFC, and 17th in the NFL. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I still have 16 more teams to power rank, so you're missing out. Once again, I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and thank you guys so much for choosing this channel as your source of sports coverage. I'll see you guys in the next video.